stand on Yugambeh land. All Saints Anglican School would like to acknowledge the traditional owners and caretakers of this land. We honour and respect the elders, past, present and emerging, and their traditional methods of caring for their country. We also wish to acknowledge those of our Indigenous brothers and sisters who wish to share their knowledge for the sustainable care of their country.
Welcome to the online adapted program of the 2020 Sustainability Symposium. On behalf of the SSN board and volunteers, I'd like to thank you as a school operational leader, business manager or CFO for choosing to invest your time with us. I'm Kate Rogers, one of the SSN strategic directors. I'm a registered planner with Planning Institute of Australia, and I've worked with local governments in Brisbane, Vancouver, Auckland and the Gold Coast. For the past 14 years, I've been raising my 3 children along with my husband here on the Gold Coast, and I've performed voluntary capacities as P&F President and as Secretary of Surf Life Saving Nipper Club. Although the 3 main education sectors of independent, Catholic and public have different reporting requirements, the road mapping to enable good governance and the importance of strategic planning is evident in all of these. The role and attitude of a school's business manager is fundamental to a school's continual improvement and if they can overcome barriers to achieving resource efficiency. We hope that the information provided by our presenters leaves you with some ideas that you might be able to incorporate into a future business plan, strategic plan or operational plan, or share with your school P&C, your school council or your own maintenance staff. It might supplement the amazing work your school is already doing, and it might provide you with some new ways of thinking. Enjoy.
We start this morning's Operational Leader program with Kevin Page and Craig Duncan from the City of Gold Coast. Kevin is the Executive Coordinator, Integrated Water Planning at the City of Gold Coast and has over 30 years' experience in the public and private sectors of the water industry in the UK, Malaysia and Australia. Kevin has a strong focus in sustainable water management, seeing alternative water sources as critical to this in the future. Craig Duncan is a project officer within the Integrated Water Planning team at the City of Gold Coast. He has over 20 years' experience in education and training for sustainability and conservation with state and local government. Craig has extensive experience in school sustainability in the areas of waste minimisation and recycling, energy, water conservation and biodiversity. We hope you enjoy Craig and Kevin's presentation.
Hi, my name is Kevin Page and I work for the City of Gold Coast Water and Waste Directorate. We're working with the Sustainable Schools Network to bring you the 2020 Sustainability Symposium. And although the format is different than planned, we hope you will all find it still very rewarding. I'll finish off by introducing the water presentation that's part of the Operational Leaders session. This presentation will share our school's water conservation project, for which we at the City of Gold Coast are extremely proud of. Hope you enjoy the presentation. Remember that we are always here to help you on your sustainability journey. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Thanks for taking part in today's session. My name is Craig Duncan and I work as a project officer for the City of Gold Coast. I work within the Integrated Water Planning team and together we manage the school's water conservation program. During this session, we'll provide an update on the program and the benefits for schools in terms of water conservation opportunities. Since the beginning of 2019, we have continued to provide schools with free access to their water use data. Most schools now have access to their data. However, if you don't have access, please get in touch with us so we can set this up for you. Check with your school's business services manager if you are a facilities manager or ground staff, as they'll most likely have your school's login details. Through access to your school's water use data, This allows for a proactive approach to leak management. At a time when our dam levels across southeast Queensland are well below capacity, this offers a great way to conserve water lost through leaks. The potential financial savings for schools in quickly resolving major leaks or smaller ongoing leaks can be significant. Any cost savings for schools associated with utilities will ultimately benefit students and learning outcomes. We have introduced courtesy water leak notifications, and these are emailed to schools on a fortnightly basis, or in some cases in response to significant leak events. These shouldn't be relied upon on a day-to-day basis, and we encourage all schools to regularly review their school's water use through the Outpost Central online portal. We'll be sending out an e-newsletter at the end of each school term, which will contain important updates, news and information related to the program. We're also looking at ways we can support schools with waste minimisation, so if this interests you, please get in touch with us. Since January 2019, we have seen a significant decrease in the average minimum night flow across all schools, from 5 litres per minute and above, down to nearly 1 litre per minute by the end of the year. The current average of 3 litres per minute can be attributed to a few schools who have since resolved significant leaks. With a consistent approach and assistance from all schools, we hope to reach our target of 2 litres per minute. Achieving this target will enable an ongoing savings of more than $1 million per annum to the schools across the Gold Coast. Every school on the Gold Coast with a mains water connection now has a smart logger attached to the water meter. Basically, the way it works is data is captured by a smart logger at 15-minute intervals, which is uploaded daily to the Outpost Central portal. Schools who have registered to access their data through this portal should be receiving an automated weekly email on a Monday morning. This will show the school's water use data from the previous week. Each school has a generic login to Outpost Central, and this can be shared amongst staff at your own discretion. The more often schools log in, the quicker you'll know about any potential leaks, and in some cases it will highlight other potential issues, such as irrigation activities, higher than normal daytime use, and in some rare cases, water theft. When you log into the portal, you will see a series of 3 graphs which show your school's daily water use, the demand profile, and the daily cost of water. Should you need to set up the automated weekly email or update contact emails for this, just click on the envelope at the top right hand corner. If you click on the middle graph, which is the demand profile, it will open in a separate window and allow you to take a closer look. If you look at your school's demand profile, you're able to select the different date ranges, so you can narrow in on a particular date range or view a larger time frame and historical data. This example shows a school's demand profile during the month of March. As you can see, some leaks escalate very quickly, and if left undetected, they can become very costly. Some water leaks will be easy to identify and generally easy to fix by a school's plumber. Some concealed leaks, however, can be difficult to identify, and to manage the leak quickly and effectively, you may need to consult with a leak detection specialist. The cost to engage a leak detection agency in many cases would be a cost-effective solution compared to the cost of water lost through significant ongoing leakage. Before school holiday breaks, make sure the school's emergency contact has access to the portal. You may even want to forward the weekly email to this contact in case of a leak at the school. When looking at your school's demand profile, there's some key information to identify. Firstly, the normal daytime use should look fairly consistent or be explained by a known event or activity. Secondly, any regular irrigation events can also be identified, and these generally occur outside of school hours. Lastly, the midnight flow rate should always come back to 0. If the flow rate does not come back to 0 when there's nobody at the school, this could indicate that there is a leak. It could be a number of small leaks such as taps and toilets, or it could be a larger concealed leak. Later this year or during 2021, we'll be hosting a workshop designed and facilitated by Relative Creative and supported by the Sustainable Schools Network. Creating a water-sensitive GC will be an interdisciplinary workshop for Year 9 and 10 students, focusing on water-sensitive cities and water security now and for the future. Further details will be released when the new date is set, so keep an eye on our regular e-newsletters and updates from the Sustainable Schools Network. Since the beginning of 2019, we've continued to provide schools with free access to their water use data. Most schools now have access to their data, but if you don't have access, get in touch with us so we can set this up for you. Check with your school's BSM if you're a facilities manager or ground staff, as they'll most likely have your school's login details. At a time when our dam levels across southeast Queensland are well below capacity, Outpost Central and access to your water use data offers a great way to conserve water lost through leaks. The potential financial savings for schools in quickly resolving leaks can be significant. Any cost savings are obviously going to benefit the students. We've introduced courtesy water leak notifications, and these are emailed to schools on a fortnightly basis. But these shouldn't be relied upon, and schools should log into their school's water use data through Outpost Central regularly. We'll be sending out an e-newsletter at the end of each school term with important updates, news and information related to the program. We're also looking at ways we can support schools with waste minimisation, so if this interests you, please get in touch with us. Thank you for your time today. From all the program team, we hope you got some benefit out of today's session. If you need any support or assistance with the program, Outpost Central or water conservation, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. Thank you.
Introducing Michelle Bordignon, who is filling in today for Wayne Middleton. Michelle is the team leader of community education at SEQ Water. Michelle has over 20 years of state and federal government experience. She is a teacher with interests in diverse fields of education, including educational policy, teaching pedagogies, and educational research. Water education and water literacy is her passion. SEQ Water is the Queensland Government Bulk Water Supply Authority, responsible for providing a safe, reliable and affordable bulk drinking water supply for 3.2 million people across southeast Queensland. We hope you enjoy Michelle's presentation today.
Good morning, my name is Michelle Bordignon, Team Leader, Community Education at SEQ Water. I'm pleased to present today at the Operational Leaders Workshop on the topic of water conservation. My colleagues at Gold Coast Water will also be presenting on ways leaders within the school can save water. But my presentation today will give you some insight into our planning for water supply in the future, drought readiness and how you can help. I'll be online for the question and answer session at the completion of this session and pleased to answer any questions. The realities of rain may seem like a simple concept, but there is a lot more hiding underneath the surface than you realise. This is the reality of rain we face. We cannot always rely on rain to fall where and when we need it to supply all of southeast Queensland with drinking water. Once we understand that reality, it becomes clear that we do have to plan now to make sure our water future is secure for generations to come.
In southeast Queensland, we can count on all kinds of rain. There's wedding day rain, long weekend rain, school holiday rain, and of course, just polish the car rain. In fact, the only kind of rain we can't count on is rain when we need it, where we need it. That's why we're planning our water future, because we can't always count on the rain.
SEQ Water would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, catchments and waterways on which we work. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. To start my presentation today, I'd like to give you an insight into some of the advertising that we've had over the last few months to bring some reality to the campaign, Realities of Rain. When we look at Southeast Queensland as a whole, we expect population to grow by more than 753,000 people by 2028. More people means more demand for water. The Southeast Queensland area that I'm referring to is Gympie to Coolangatta and west to Ipswich. Challenge number 1, according to the Queensland Government Statisticians Office, we expect the population on the Gold Coast to grow by more than 150,000 people by 2028. With the population growing by leaps and bounds, we expect in only 10 years SEQ Water will be required to supply the region with an additional 132 million litres of water per day. That is a lot of water, and if any of you have looked around the region, there's not a lot of places for us to build new dams. And dams can only help us so much. When it stops raining, as it's apt to do in Southeast Queensland, dams have limitations. At the same time, we are planning for more people to call Southeast Queensland home. We know that climate is changing, and how it changes will impact how we provide water for the regions. According to the Queensland Government, climate change will impact us in a number of ways, and each may impact our availability to provide water. For instance, more intense rainfall events or flooding events can impact our ability to treat water and degrades our catchments. We expect more periods of drought, which means our dam levels will fall, and we saw that before Christmas, increasing our need to develop climate resilient water sources like the Duncan desal plant and purified recycled water. There will be more hot days, and we all know on hot days there's nothing better than cooling off in the pool or taking frequent showers, all of which will increase demand. There are also limits to the amount of water we can store in dams and how much we can move around the region. In Southeast Queensland, we are very reliant on surface water, which is water stored in dams or weirs. Our biggest dam is Wivenhoe, with other storages on the Gold Coast, in particular at Hinds and Little Nerang, or in the north at North Pine or Ewan-Matic Dam. SEQ Water also manages something called the SEQ Water Grid. This was established in response to the Millennium Drought and helps us move water around the region. Using the water grid, we can move water from the Gold Coast, from the desal plant at Duncan that operates at the moment on hot standby, so 3 days every fortnight, to produce water that we can push to Brisbane, or we can move water from North Pine Dam to Noosa. The grid can be used to maximise supplies in one region and to supplement another, but every good thing has its limits, and the water grid is good at supplementing supply, but it cannot easily supply an area without a reliable local supply. The reality we face is clear. Climate is changing, population is growing, and our water system is heavily reliant on regular rainfall. The only way we can deal with that reality is by planning now, so we can be ready for whatever future we face. Like all good plans, we look to the past to plan for the future. We don't have to go way back in our history for lessons. One of our biggest teachers for how to manage our water was the Millennium Drought. It was the worst drought in 100 years. We learnt quickly that if the only thing we were counting on is rain to supply the region with drinking water, we can quickly run out in troubles when the rain stops falling. We dealt with the lack of rainfall in 2 ways. South East Queensland played their part as individuals and dramatically reduced their consumption. They went from 300 litres a day down to 140 litres a day, and even further to 120 litres a day. And secondly, we built climate resilient water sources like the Tugun desalination plant, and we also built 3 advanced water treatment plants or recycled water treatment plants in Brisbane. These water sources are not dependent on rainfall and are key for our next drought. We also learned we can't always count on the rain when we need it and where we need it. Lesson number 3 we learned was that building infrastructure takes time and money, and when you build things quickly, it takes even more time, so it's important for us to plan now. My next section is looking at the reliability in keeping the water flowing. I have a question to our audience listening today. How many of you have ever woken up and turned on the tap and were worried that more water might not come out? At SEQ Water, we want to make sure South East Queensland's water supply is reliable, that you can depend on water coming out of your tap all of the time, and water is safe to drink as well. We all agree we want to keep the water flowing, otherwise we could face a situation like Cape Town did last year, where they faced a reality of day zero, a city that was about to run out of water. Residents had to go to collection points to collect water. Now, South East Queensland is nowhere near a similar situation, but the only way we can prevent that is by planning now. You'll be happy to know that they received rain in Cape Town and the situation is not quite as dire as it was earlier in the year last year. Providing water to South East Queensland is a daunting task, and it takes many players to make sure the tap keeps running. At SEQ Water, we operate and manage $11 billion worth of dams, water treatment plants and pipelines. How many of you have visited a Lake Wivenhoe or Lake McDonald, Lake Baroom or Lake Samsonvale or Wirralong on the south? If you've visited a site that SEQ Water manages, that's our source water that we provide for our region. We provide water to more than 3 million or 3.2 million people in South East Queensland. We supply irrigation water to 1,200 farmers. We work to mitigate floods, and we manage recreation areas enjoyed by 3 million people a year. We work with your water service provider to deliver water to your homes and businesses. In the diagram, you'll see SEQ Water handles the dams, drinking water treatment and some reservoirs, advanced water treatment plants and the desalination plant. Your water service provider, and for the Gold Coast is Gold Coast Water, manages some reservoirs. They also deliver water to your home or to your schools and businesses and handle sewage and wastewater treatment. The Queensland State Government regulates how we operate. We have reporting lines into the Department of Natural Resources and Mines with regards to our operations, dam safety and water supply planning. We enact legislation on behalf of Queensland Health for the administration of fluoride and also work with them regarding purified recycled water. QCA, or Queensland Competition Authority, sets the price for the bulk water supply charge. Queensland Treasury is the other department overseeing finance of our major infrastructure projects, amongst other things. We have 5 water service providers across South East Queensland. So I mentioned earlier, SEQ Water is the bulk water authority. So we source, store and supply drinking water to 5 retailers. Urban Utilities is the service provider for areas covered by Ipswich, Brisbane, Scenic Rim, Lockyer Valley and Somerset local councils. Unity Water is the service provider for areas of Moreton, Noosa and Sunshine Coast local councils. And Redlands, Logan and Gold Coast have council-owned water businesses. To continue to enjoy the lifestyle we love, we need to have a plan to make sure we have the most essential service of all, water, and not just any plan. Building the type of large infrastructure that water supply relies on takes time, years and decades. So we need to be on the front foot. We call this our water security program. The water security document, or we call it the little document, it's not so little, it's 300 pages, forecasts demand, supply capability, and how we can operate the current water supply system for the next 30 years. It also identifies any new infrastructure we might need to build to meet forecast demand. The last version of the plan was released in 2017. We are already planning for the next version, scheduled for release in 2022. However, we provide yearly updates in the form of annual reports that can be found on our SEQ Water website. This is our drought response plan on this slide. It outlines what actions we will take when our key drinking water storages reach certain trigger levels. When our storages are above 70%, we encourage general water efficiency behaviours. Luckily for us, we've retained a lot of water-wise behaviours we've learnt in the Millennium Drought. Our storages are sitting today at 67%. When our storages drop below 70%, like they did at the end of 2019, we prepare the community for the possibility of drought. We call this drought readiness. There is no water restrictions at this stage. However, we encourage the community to increase their water efficiency efforts. This is designed to delay the introduction of water restrictions and other potentially more expensive interventions. Once our water storages reach 60%, we ramp up full production at the Gold Coast Desalination Plant and will start to bring the advanced water treatment plants that produce purified recycled water back online. There is also water restrictions to 150 litres per person per day that will be implemented across the regions. When we drop to 25% in our dams, target 120 per litres per person per day will be implemented. This level of water restriction is in line with the Millennium Drought. The Gold Coast Desalination Plant was built in 2007-2008 at Duncan, near the Gold Coast Airport, or at the back of the Gold Coast Airport, and has been operational since it was built. It supplies water on a regular basis to the Gold Coast, Logan and Brisbane areas. It produces at full capacity 133 megalitres of water a day, which is equivalent to about 50 Olympic-sized swimming pools. And we use it in droughts and floods, or when we need to supplement the water grid because we've taken water treatment plants offline. And for us, that could be water treatment plants on the Gold Coast or in Brisbane that are taken offline for maintenance, and we'll use the Duncan Desal plant to supplement supply for those communities. Nature already provided us with recycled water, but not always at the right place at the right time. Did you know the water that you're drinking today was once the same water that dinosaurs have also drank, walked, weed and pooed in? The advanced water treatment plants that were built in 2000 during the Millennium Drought, the worst drought in 100 years, was to provide a climate resilient drinking water source. Under South East Queensland's drought response plan, we will begin bringing the advanced water treatment plants back online when the combined levels of our drinking water dams reach 60% of their capacity. Currently today, they're sitting at 67.2%. This purified recycled water will be available to supplement drinking water supplies in a prolonged drought. And I also mentioned earlier that it won't go directly to your taps. We'll put it back into the natural water cycle to supplement water at Wivenhoe to ensure that the dam never gets down to the levels it got down to in the Millennium Drought of 15%. So what does this mean for you, your family, and your community? The last three slides I'm going to cover one region and many differences between our communities from the Sunshine Coast to the Gold Coast and to West Ipswich. We're going to look at how much water do you actually use. And I also want to raise with you an education program, a free education program called H2O Kids that we've been running successfully for the last 18 months. We can come into your school to educate your community. So how much water does South East Queensland use? Before the Millennium Drought, South East Queenslanders were using a lot of water, nearly 300 litres a day. During the drought, because of the combined efforts, we brought our water consumption down to 120 litres a day. We have more than halved our water consumption. This was the community effort as one, together doing their part. We became water wise and water champions. Today, consumption numbers have risen, and this slide indicates we're at 176 litres a day, but actually we've crept up to over 200 litres a day. So why have we lost some of that water-wise behaviour? And it's time for us to remind the community now about being water-wise and to save our precious resource. And that's where I come in. My program is community education, and this is where I'll be asking you as school leaders to help me educate your school on to be water wise, why we need to save water, and how we need to look after this precious resource for the future. We have an education program called H2O Kids. It's available, and as of this week, to coincide with the Sustainability Summit, we'll be launching our program online through the SEQ Water website and our YouTube channel. We have an incursion and excursion program available free that will be delivering at the end of the COVID response period again. But essentially we educate nearly 30,000 children through Southeast Queensland every year through our incursion and excursion program. It can be found on our website, seqwater.com.au/education, where we have a whole heap of activities, toolboxes, as well as the YouTube clips and lessons for teachers to book into. If you've got any further questions, you can contact me through the Sustainable Schools Network or contact me directly on my email address that Katie will provide.
I'm being as careful as I can. Everybody's being really proactive about what you should do, how you should help others.
It's too good when you have friends and family that can support with your mental health.
I think this is the time where people need to come together, and I have seen people coming together. Some of my friends going to the neighbors, the elderly, and taking like care packages for them.
I just think that the best thing that we should do right now is just restrict our travel.
I cook for myself and I also cook for my housemates. I try to support them mentally by cooking the traditional and authentic Vietnamese foods.
We're all in this together, so please try to be kind and supportive of each other.
It's okay to be scared, but we're in this together.
We're in this together.
In this together.
Introducing Christine McDougall. It all began with this. In 2019, Christine McDougall was fed up with morally bankrupt leaders and broken systems, so she started a movement that would strive to leave everything touched better. This idea, this evolution, this belief became Syntropic Enterprise. It's a new take on business, a business plan that celebrates those thinking with tomorrow in mind. Syntropic Enterprise is creating a world with a future, a world where integrity, values, and human connection are driven through considered positive productivity for the earth. It's this mindset that leads to success and leaves a lasting legacy. A world with the future of the universe considered and not smirked at. For over 20 years, Christine McDougall has committed herself to working with leaders and enterprises globally to invoke change. She experiences a deeper level of truth by questioning the basic assumptions that drive us as humans. At the core of her work is the mantra, leave everything you touch better. The opposite of evil is indifference, so if not you, then who? It's business reimagined. I'd now like to welcome Christine McDougall to the 2020 Sustainability Symposium.
Most of us would want our children or our children's children to have a world with a future. Yes? Yes? And so if we look at what we have now for children, it's a fairly scary place for a number of reasons. All of my work is based on the premise that people are generally good. People would like to do things in the world that make a difference and matter. And they would like to be engaged in projects and work for which they deeply care about towards a world with a future. And so if we start from that premise and we look at the world that we have, there is a significant mismatch between that. And so a second part of my premise is that the human mind, when we come together, is extraordinarily able and capable of doing extraordinary things. And so part of one of the principles that we'll cover in more detail is the principle of synergy. But there is no doubt in my mind that good people working with comprehensive consideration about what they're doing have the capacity to create extraordinary change for the betterment of all of humans and Earth. And if I didn't believe that, and if I didn't really believe that to my bones, I wouldn't get up in the morning, pretty much. And so, this, if we look at what we want for our children's future, we want for them to be able to express the magnificence that every human has, every single human. We're all unique and different and brilliant and extraordinary. To be able to express that in a way that doesn't do harm for others. And to be able to do that within the design of systems and structures that support that, and also to enable the establishment of community and the opportunity for humans to get on and work together with each other. So this is kind of like the foundations. For some of you who don't know me, in my mid-20s, the irony is I went to do a course on how to make a lot of money. and the universe had other plans, as they say. And so what happened was I was introduced to the work of Buckminster Fuller. But as a consequence of meeting the work of Bucky Fuller, I took a U-turn, which you'll hear more about in a moment because it has a name called precession. I took a U-turn and then spent the rest of until now, my time deeply engaged in understanding his models and his work. And as all of us, we reach a point where it's like, oh, I now get this painful path to here. It's felt like I have no idea why I'm doing it. I don't know what's happening, but I now get it. And the getting it is that because Bucky was committed to understanding the laws of the universe, how it works, how things work. And he was applying it to things like how we build houses, how we build cities. He was applying it very specifically to physical architecture and structure. Whereas I've been applying it mostly to how we do relationships with humans, so human coordination. And so it makes so much sense to me that we have, if nature's got it figured out, and we've got some people who've got strong background in working with nature here, but if nature has figured it out, then surely the models that nature has that works might easily also apply to how humans do enterprise together. I don't know, pretty good. But of course, what we have to do as humans is we have to grow up, literally grow up, so that we have the capacity to go, maybe we're not the dominant species, and maybe we're not all the answers, and maybe all the answers we walk over every day. On the 24th of July, yes, I have a journal. On the 24th of July, I'm sitting in this question, and I felt it like was nagging at the back of my brain for a while, and I'm sitting this question. So I've always used the word enterprise because I don't want to limit business and human engagement to a company or a business or whatever. Enterprise is something, an undertaking. The root meaning of the word, is an undertaking that we do together. And so, I'm looking at social enterprise and I'm going, doesn't cut it. It just doesn't do it for me. It's kind of like it's a differentiator between business as usual and social enterprise. So there's a step in the right direction. But there are so many people who are claiming to be doing social enterprise, and they're actually just walking the old path with a new skin. And so I'm going, what is it? What is it that that we need to create for a future, for a world with a future? And so I went back to my books. And the irony, I'll come to you, Tiago, in a minute, but I went back to my books and I'm going, syntropy. Okay, syntropy. To give you the context of syntropy, Bucky Fuller always believed that, contra to scientific opinion that is current right now, which is the second law of thermodynamics, which means that the world is in a state of degeneration. And this is what science believes. You go to any of the universities and study energy and mass and matter and so on, you're going to learn that the world is degenerating. And Bucky always said, no, actually, we have the opposite. We have syntropy. And syntropy, since the word itself means to a higher order for an eternally regenerative universe. So he argued that we have entropy on one side and syntropy on another. And I'm saying these things now because there's a lot of complexity behind this, and we're going to get to the sort of like the models that live underneath this shortly, but you have entropy and syntropy. I'd much rather inhabit a world where there is regeneration going on as much as there is destruction. I don't know about you, but you know, I like that one better. And so this sort of diagram explains it. This is like light and refraction. Entropy is a higher order of disintegration. That's what's happening with it. Whereas syntropic is coming into a focus. It's towards, excuse me, a eternally regenerative universe. They're pairs. They're partners, like my palm. You know, you can't say that this is the right side of my palm and that's the wrong side of my palm. They're pairs. We need them to work together. And so, the term syntropic enterprise was like, this is what I want to see. And then it became very clear that all of my work for until now and ongoing is how do we make syntropic enterprise as ubiquitous on Earth, which means that there will be more of these to balance it than these. And almost every business that we've got out there right now is entropic. Almost every single one. Good people, this is not about good or bad people. There are bad people, good people trying to do good things within a system that is designed to wear down and degenerate and extract and exploit and extinct. It's a design feature. And so my focus now is how do we get this side to at least be equal, if not greater, than that side, because it's a little bit like we've got to get the balance right. And so that's the game. But to do that, we have to really start to unpack how things work and challenge every assumption, because most of the assumptions that underpin how we do things, they're assumptions for a good reason. We don't think about them. And so we have to start thinking about what the assumptions are and challenge every single thing behind it. So synergy requires a whole systems point of view. And if we're building anything, what we generally do is we start down here and then we look at the parts. Whereas a syntropic, yes, Tiago, is to start up here and look at the whole and then figure out what parts are needed. It's completely and absolutely not the way we're trained to do things. And so the principle of synergy is kind of like if there is one rule to lead them all, one ring to lead them all, whatever, if there's one of these. It's the principle of synergy. It's the number one. And so the behaviour of the whole cannot be determined by an examination of the parts taken separately. I'll repeat it. Please. The behaviour of the whole cannot be determined by an examination of the parts separately. And I'm going to give you some really clear, simple examples. If we take an explosive metal and a poisonous gas, two components, explosive metal and a poisonous gas, would you be delighted to associate any of those with what you eat every day? Explosive metal, poisonous gas. Would you go, yeah, I'm going to eat that? No. Sodium chloride, table salt. It doesn't matter how much you examine the gas or the metal. It doesn't matter how genius you are. You will never determine that when you put the two of them together you get table salt. Ever determine that. The only way you can determine it is take table salt and then figure out the parts. Yep. So the other one, which is just the classic we all know, is it doesn't matter how much you dissect and examine a caterpillar, you're never going to find a butterfly. Like, you're just not. It's not there. You have to go to the end and understand that this is where it happens. So synergy means that we can take it's the whole principle of metallurgy. It's everything that lives behind metallurgy, is that we take substances and combine them, and their tensile strength is not 10x, it's 1,000x. Like, that's where exponential for me really lies. It lies in the synergetic relationships that we can create. And so if you want to do anything and have an exponential curve, apply the principle of synergy. Foundational. But it also means if you're trying to solve a big problem, classic in organisations, try and solve big problem, if you don't have all the information, and if you don't have all the point of views and opinions, you're looking at it, through this, not that. We're conditioned to respond to the parts, but we actually need to see the whole as the starting point and then come backwards. Does that make sense? Yeah. And part of this also means that if you're designing something, you want to know what the end point is that you're designing to, and then come back and figure out how you're going to get there. Rather than the way we do design, which is here we are, bump, 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 lose this bit, lose that bit, relationships break up, etc., etc. So the principle of synergy is the fundamental starting point. And so in shorthand, it means 1 + 1 + 1 is anything greater, obviously, than 3. But I'm going, that's pretty boring. Because if you really want synergy to work, you need an exponential, it needs to be greater. Anything greater than, let's just be kind and go 100. And so if we apply this to humans, because we're human systems.
Wait, what?
What?
Why apply the extra 97? I don't... Isn't it magic to be able to create 3.1?
It is.
I don't understand the number. So.
Okay, so okay, good question. So let's just say that you and Ty and I were doing a project together. Yeah? We're doing a project together, yeah?
Right.
Okay. If, when we work together, if the outcome of us working together isn't just 3.1, in other words, it's not just your capacity, and my capacity, it's just a little bit better than that, it's like, what? That's a very inefficient system. If it's less than that, we need to reorganise. Yeah? He's going, Ty's going.
I'll see you
So, you think about it. You think about when you get together with somebody else, we've done this, we're working on something,
Yeah.
boom. There is not a chance that you could have done it on your own, or I could have done it on my own. What emerges is something that we couldn't see, couldn't taste, couldn't touch, couldn't feel until we worked on it together, and there it is. I could have put 75.
Yes.
The number, we're the people that are doing this work, applying. I'm holding you to a higher standard. If it's just 1 + 1 + 1 = 3, stay home.
But I think, like, I completely understand the idea that of synergy equals more, but is it 1 + 1 + 1 = lever, or 1 + 1 + 1 = transformation? I like, this just feels awesome.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I don't mind what it is, but I feel like this is so fundamental to everything. Like we're here to.
Yeah, we'll do infinity. Yes.
Can I just make a comment that it's the 1 + 1 = alchemy rather than trying to. Yeah, we've all jumped into.
You like alchemy?
Yeah, well, just whatever that's simple for alchemy.
Yeah, I mean, we've jumped into immediately putting numbers up there. It's that
magic.
Yeah.
The point. So there's layers within this. There's layers because if we start with this, we're actually starting at ground level. We're starting with the combination, whereas to really understand the principle of synergy, you have to understand the whole. It's imperative. So Bucky would say, start with the universe first. We have to start thinking whole systems, and we're not trained to think whole systems. We're trained to see parts, and so this is where my total and absolute trust in humans lives, is because I know that take human minds, not brains, human minds, and their creativity, and create the right environment, which is really critical for human minds to really be all the potential that they have. And you cannot stop this from happening, which means that there is nothing that we can't do to create a better world for humanity and Earth. This lives in that principle.
Introducing Larissa Rose. Larissa is an energetic and resilient professional with a comprehensive knowledge of renewable fuels, environmental management, business leadership and sustainability. Winner of the 2019 Gold Coast Women's in Business Award, Larissa is tertiary qualified and has obtained a significant knowledge and skill set in environmental studies, carbon solutions, waste and project management, and student mentoring and career leadership. Larissa has extensively advocated and engaged government, regional and rural communities, and teaching at schools on the economic, social, health and environmental benefits of renewable fuels. She has led and facilitated environmental education programs in Queensland schools, devised sustainability plans, and developed environmental auditing programs for schools and companies nationally. A career spanning grassroots engagement on the field to high-level political negotiations has provided Larissa with a definitive understanding of market gaps that must be addressed to facilitate a robust renewable fuels industry for Australia and globally. Her environmental consultancy company, Glowing Green Australia, has given her advanced experiences with business systems, leading teams and delivering professional quality services for clients. Larissa has represented Australia speaking on numerous global conference stages in the US, Canada, Korea, Germany and the UN level, through to significant domestic speaking roles in Australia with her respective knowledge themes. Larissa is an adjunct lecturer at Bond University, driving the climate change and environmental management curriculum, integrating and developing academia and industry stakeholder engagement. Please welcome Larissa to the 2020 Sustainability Symposium.
Welcome everybody. My name is Larissa Rose and it is an absolute pleasure to be able to stand here today and have a chat to you from my home office and talk about sustainability and what that means in terms from an operational management perspective. I'd like just to acknowledge and thank the incredible work of the Sustainable Schools Network, and them being able to flip and deliver this 2020 Sustainability Symposium, and being able to really progress, integrate and change and look at how do we optimize and create so much more expansion and opportunities for a network like Sustainability SSN to be able to deliver outcomes that can stretch out and reach other parts of our community that weren't able to probably be able to come when we were based as a physical event. So my discussion today is a little bit around what it means in terms for us to embed sustainability in our schools. And it sounds like it's just something that we can think about, slightly tick off and attach some sort of green initiative to. And yes, that is true. But also there's a lot more opportunity for us to get down and have a strategy, a policy implementation phase, and really identify where there's some great quick wins, but also some longer term trajectory goals on how sustainability can make a progressive change for your school and organisation. So my name is Larissa Rose. I am from Glowing Green Australia, and my company and myself have been enabling a lot of fantastic initiatives around environmental practice management and sustainability in schools all around Australia. And I'm looking forward today to sharing with you, and I will be giving you some visuals to help with you sitting down wherever you are, in your lounge room, in your kitchen, or in your home office, to really trigger and make you ask some questions around how can you make some really great purposeful and impactful change in your school and organisation. So Glowing Green Australia are a company. We've been around for about 10 years, and we have got two different parts of portfolio, and I'll just explore that quite quickly to help give you an understanding on how I can provide that value for you. We work a lot on regulation, environmental auditing and assessment, and what that means in terms for carbon intensity attached. So a big part of our company and portfolio is report writing and doing all the environmental assessment side. The other side is obviously around facilitating and providing education, platforms, workshops and curriculum, and embedding a whole overarching change in schools so they can speak to, showcase and obviously support a whole community shift and change in retrospect to how the schools operate from a cost, economic, social and environmental perspective as well. So we do a lot of work all in around that. And I'm going to share with you some slides now to kind of talk through a little around that, but we will get down to that nitty gritty as much as we can in our short, sharp presentations for you. So this is just a quick overview of our services and our capabilities and what we do, and that in turn you'll probably start to understand what that means in relative to how we could speak to doing operational change and management. So we've done a lot of work working with schools, as I mentioned, around doing just simple initiatives and programs to start assisting with having the school and management, the business management side, on accountability on where they need to do some work with behavioural management as well. So we've run a lot of programs with schools around sustainability, which also means health as well, and providing inputs for children to understand the 101 of sustainability all the way through to, you know, grade 5, 6, understanding what it means in terms to do waste management plans. So a part of our other work obviously is really supporting free community outcomes and engagement work. So we do a lot of work alongside that. We run programs in schools that align to specific days that we have, obviously theme days that we've got in Australia and globally, and then flicking that back across to the curriculum as well. Here we go, we can see some work that we've been doing on giving grade 4 students here an opportunity to understand environmental science and why we need to do that. But how do we sustainably keep policies and frameworks and initiatives in place to make those longer term outcomes and changes? We've worked progressively with one of the schools on the Gold Coast here. We've got a fair few other schools as well, but PBC have done quite a lot of progressive work over the years, where we've embedded a whole overarching operational management shift and change. And I'll go through a little bit more here and there where I can bring in that relativity for you to explain what that is and what that would really mean for you as a teacher, as a business development manager, as a student, and wanting to make, also people who work in the offices as well at schools to look at how we can start making change. So that's a little bit of an overview of where that is. We've also got our key educational triggers, which are really valuable and important. Obviously, we have the glowing R's. But what we really want to get into now is sustainability. What is that and what does it mean? And how is that relative to you and your school and organisation? So we all have our own versions, and I'm going to try really hard just to keep it quite simple and snapshot, but give you real questions that we do. And this is what our company does when we go in and support a school to look at what it means in terms for them to start taking a sustainability endeavour. So it doesn't need to be overwhelming. We can keep it pretty simple. Some of the trigger questions, I guess, that are really there. Well, what is it and what does it really mean? Where is sustainability applied? How do I apply sustainability? What sustainability mean to the school? And how do we embed initiatives or programs to deliver a triple bottom line outcome? So we're going to explore that a little bit more, which is around the social, environmental, and economic component. So as we've got explained here, and obviously you will be provided with slides and any information that you may need as well, is sustainable development has been defined as the development. So that would mean the development that's going on within your school and progressing, how that meets the needs of the present moment, without compromising the ability of the future generations, the school's future trajectory as a built environment, and also the students and the teaching and non-teaching staff inside that to be able to sustain that in systems and policies and frameworks in the future further down the track. Sustainability and sustainable development calls for concerted efforts towards building an inclusive and sustainable, resilient future for the people and the planet. So these are some of the kind of thought processes that we need to start looking and considering when what that means in terms to the school. Sustainable development is to be achieved. It is crucial to harmonise three core elements, which we've kind of brushed on: economic growth, social inclusion, and environmental protection. These elements are interconnected and they are all crucial for the well-being of ourselves as individuals and that obviously as society. So when we start to break down that's as a snapshot as what we could do with sustainability, but we want to be able to really kind of hone in a bit more on major specific questions. So this is what we do when we workshop with you to get some outcomes. What does sustainability mean to you as an individual, which is really imperative, student and a teacher? We've got non-teaching staff there. We've got a lot of people. What does sustainability mean to your school? And do you feel your school is doing enough? Pretty fair questions. Some of you would say, well, actually, no, I don't think we are. So I'd encourage you to write down these questions and to be really honest to ask yourself, well, what do we do? Is it kind of a bit greenwashy, or do we have actual physical, really great, tangible things that are doing what we mentioned before, future-proofing the generations to progress forward, which is what Sustainability 101 is. So really ask that, do you feel your school is doing enough? Let's set some longer-term trajectory goals on what that is and put some really huge, crazy ones out there. Do you want to be on the leading edge? If you do, let's look at and consider what that is and what that means and how you would back map that out. From here, we'd also work into some other questions for you. What is your school doing environmentally? What could your school do better at? And are there community programs already out there that your school can support and be a part of or attached to? So these, 6 questions, I encourage you to write them down, are really great prompts. Get your Sharpie pen out, your whiteboard, your Trello, your platform, whatever you like to use to really shape up and develop what is that and what that means. And there are so many opportunities with number 6 for you to create linkages to bunny hop on, create some really good quick wins. And we're going to talk a little bit more further about what that could mean in terms for your school. What to do next? Great question. When we've done a lot of those questions and nutted that out, we like to move across to developing a sustainability committee or a club. Really imperative. So when we come in and get that nitty-gritty workshop going on, we like to really understand what it means for you to build a hub. You need a hub and a network. You need something that is going to keep momentum progressing and going for you. From that, you've got your group. Then you can build on this most imperative document, having an ethos and agenda. And that is what's going to give you the capacity to be able to talk to and have embedded in your full trajectory moving forward. From there, we also want to ensure that you can then start to establish and build some plan and goals from that. So you need your sustainability hub, your environmental group. That is the backbone. From that, you start building your ethos and philosophy. What is this methodology? What do we want to talk to? Every school has a motto and an ethos. Why do we not have one for environment sustainability? Very valuable, important. Then from there, the next layer is building that plan, doing that from a 1-year perspective, 2-year perspective. You can set that crazy 5-year goal. But building that so you can act on, action on, and deliver and keep accountable is really important. Building that group, absolutely. Inviting your teachers, non-teaching, key students, community, the school community, parents, you need them to be involved and engaged. It is so important. They are going to be able to value add and give perspectives in regards to different kind of concepts that you may not have realized. Building this strong networking group is going to help you supersede with your goals and those plans and delivering on successfully with an initiative or a program that you would like to put in place for the school. That vision statement, as I mentioned again, imperative. It is your talking piece. It will assist you to expand into your narrative around your environmental stewardship and your duty of care. This is what you want everyone to stand strong on. And I encourage you to trigger whatever key words that you think of and resonate with you now as you are listening, to start jotting them down, because that is what you can expand from to build your ethos. Developing the school plan, very strategic, and this is where you need some accountability to sit with that. Outcomes, what would you like to see happen at the school? What are some of the big goals and achievements that you would like? Be comparative, have a look what everyone else is doing. You know what it's like. Always look at what your competitors are doing. You do that too and work out what version is that and what's in your capabilities as a school to be able to deliver on that. Your perceptions, how do you want the community to look and see and perceive you? You've got your internal school community, but you've got your bigger overarching community that you actually live in and your school associates in. So how do you want to be perceived and what do you want to do to enact and deliver on that? What does leadership look like to you as a school? What can you easily enable and do today in your school? Now, this is the big, great, quick win one. You may already have some processes and systems there that you didn't really look at, but yeah, you can tick them off and start building that into your plan and strategy and being able to build that into your media and communications as well. That is a really big, important one. From here, we're going to start looking and touching on something which is the SDGs. As we know, we are highly connected with the SDGs for the SSN Symposium. So we've got 17, 11 and 16, and I will explore those a little bit more. SDGs are important. These will game change you building your plan and strategy, but also they are going to be imperative behind your ethos. Your vision statement will have aligned, and it may not directly say it in the vision statement, but you will have aligned in there some key SDGs that you as a school would like to support and ensure you are delivering through. I'm going to give you an example, what we've done with one school, and this is aligning to SDG 12. Now, you will notice there is a different little emoji here than what you see for the everyday SDGs, and I'll talk a little bit about those in a second. But an example for you to do with the school would be, by term 4 2020, we would like to reduce our whole school waste generation by 20%. Okay, great, you've got that target. Now we need to probably look at how we're going to measure that data. How are we going to make and proclaim that? And how are we going to identify what our baseline is and how we've actually done and achieved that? And that's where a company like us come in and support you with auditing. So auditing is really important, especially when you are wanting to punch out numbers and stats as an achievable goal. So this school we talked about, we will achieve this through prevention, reduction, recycling, and reuse principles. So if that's a big major one for them, obviously they've been able to align to the goal 12, and inside that goal may be reiterated and worded in the vision statement as being a process to look at prevention and reduction in their vision statement. So, and it can be explored a lot more out in your plan. So remember, the vision statement is short and sharp, but it has a lot behind it as well. From here, we'll move into these emojis that I was referring to. So I think this is valuable for you as a school perspective to look at the Good Life Goals, which were put together by the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. And they have just tweaked it to be a little bit more kid and I guess younger generation connectivity to it. So they've replicated that through a way of looking at emojis, which I think are thoroughly exciting and engaging. And I'll just show you a little bit about what that aligns to with the 2020 symposium we have here with the 3 imperative SDGs. So that is sustainable cities and communities. So when we look at how do we ask questions for you as a school to align to a goal. So I'm going to give you those examples now. If you're feeling like you resonate with that, your fundamental questions you need to ask all the time is really around, well, that's all well and good, but how are we going to implement that? So to implement something, you need to have a strategy and a policy and a framework in place. So if you were to look over here, you can see in green, we want to build, nurture, and protect our local environment for now and into the future. So if that's maybe one of the key deliverables in your plan, you need to start asking a question on what type of internal policies are we delivering on to support this intention. So do you see how you need to kind of do a backdoor approach and ask yourself those questions? Definitely a really valuable and important methodology and process to go through once you've identified with your sustainability powerhouse team what you're wanting to do and deliver on. And we're going to work on a couple more. Another one is 16, and this one is around peace and justice and building strong institutions. A school is an institution. So if we were to look again in the question that I've written there in green, we want to instill peaceful mindsets. So this is what we're wanting to do. Cultivate powerful leaders who stand up and support the citizens of the community for just purpose. You would be wanting to ask yourself that question on how do we build a framework within our school that delivers supportive frameworks for peaceful mindsets and positive outlooks for teachers, students, I guess the school community and the wider community. What can we link to externally that's out there that is enacting and delivering on this methodology that we can support and showcase as a school that we are changing and building on? Can you sort of feel and see how those questions, how they are prompting you to kind of trigger? That's what's really important about this process. We want to do triggering that can help you identify where you can build your whole policy and program. Now we're going to move across to number 17, which is the third and the last SDG goal that we have for the symposium this year. And that one is really around my favorite of all time, which is partnerships for goals. I'm all about building the leaders of the future, and our company has done so much advocacy on that. And we want you to be able to look at, well, what are we maybe not doing enough? What have we not connected with enough? And have we put enough attention on what's going out there? Who can we collaborate and partner with? So that's what a question would come across as, or intention would be, we want to achieve intentional project goals with key stakeholders and groups within our community to deliver outcomes and purposeful solutions. Those purposeful solutions is where you would extract and pull apart that company or other business or stakeholder, what they are doing, and does that align with you and your school community? The question to ask would be, who can we connect and collaborate and partner with in our local community? Great question. So many opportunities out there all the time. Maybe you could be, as a school, a key driver to enact on and make that purposeful, impactful change. You have a progressive role as a school as well to be able to do that. An example for what Glowing Green Australia have done, we have done the same thing. We have done that with branching out and supporting 3 different portfolios and sectors. Our first one is with Surfrider, doing a lot of our environmental education, community engagement, free engagement work that we do to support beach cleanup days, teaching kids, pulling together adults, pulling together key political positions and people who are quite significant leaders in our community to come together and work with us as private and with organisation to deliver fantastic community outcomes. That is something that we do. It's in our ethos, it sits in our vision statement, and we know that we are enacting and delivering on that. Climate Wave, we've also got one as well, which is around event management and ensuring that we're supporting outcomes around cleaner, sustainable events in our community. How we work with other businesses to partner and deliver on outcomes. So that's the B2B outcome. And then obviously, Glowing Green Australia are founding partners of the Sustainable Schools Network. And for us, that was around how do we broaden the discussion piece around building education for sustainability. We've done so much work. How can we leverage and gain traction and build a really great pathway forward with a non-for-profit to support overarching outcomes that are going to make impactful, purposeful change here in Queensland, in Australia, and overarchingly connect to our SDGs. So that's just to share a little bit of that on what we're doing. And as of finishing up now, I wanted to show you an example of leadership at its finest as well, and to probably keep you on your toes to understand how you can probably step up that little bit more, or maybe just take a sidestep and look at another part and portfolio that you didn't consider you should be doing in your sustainability agenda. And that is a lot around auditing. And this is where it is all well and good to have policies and frameworks, but if you don't have benchmarks and baselines and have documentation to support that, you aren't able to really talk about punching out those percentage changes. So Palm Beach Coromon High School here, we've worked quite significantly with, and as you can see here, they've got their alignment to the SDG goals. This is a document that they are able to look at and speak to, and a few years have gone behind that document to be able to broadcast something like that around how they have achieved goals around operational management, which is the built environment of the school, and how they are able to showcase to the community their duty of care on how they're wanting to make change. So I wanted to just close with giving you the confidence to empower you to explore, mud map out, go back to school when we can, but also be able to sit down and have those, solid discussions, whether that's with management, the business development team, to kind of talk about what it is going to be for your school. Now, leadership at its finest are the people who are the game changers, who feel the fear and do it anyway. And I would like to let you know that you have the power and capacity to be able to make the changes that you can and be gentle, take time on yourself where it's needed to be able to deliver some of those outcomes. A lot of it will have behavioural management processes behind it. It takes time to change behaviours, and there are simple initiatives that we have been able to help provide value for schools on to be able to transition across to greater uptake and change on environmental management and sustainability practice in your school. Please feel free to connect with Glowing Green Australia anytime. We are across all those social media platforms, and I thank you for sitting down and spending that time mapping out. Look forward to connecting and chatting more, and enjoy the 2020 Sustainability Symposium. Thank you kindly.
Jamie Cloud concludes Part B of the Operational Leader Program. Jamie is the founder and president of the Cloud Institute for Sustainability Education in New York City. As a pioneer in the field of education for sustainability, Jamie is an international keynote speaker, thought leader, and educational consultant. Jamie writes and publishes extensively and is a leadership advisor and curriculum development coach to administrators, teachers, and curriculum specialists in schools and school districts around the US and other parts of the world. Jamie is the curator, editor, and a contributing author of Educating for a Sustainable Future: Benchmarks for Individual and Social Learning, released by the Journal of Sustainability Education. Jamie is an advisory board member for the Centre for Green Schools at the US Green Building Council, the National Sustainable Communities Coalition and the Future We Want with David Orr and Bill Becker, and the Feinhorn Foundation College. Jamie is on the nomination committee for the US Department of Education Green Ribbon Schools, an advisory committee member for the Buckminster Fuller Institute, as well as an editorial board member for the Catalyst Journal. As a mentor to doctoral students studying sustainability education at Prescott College, Jamie is on the faculty of the MFA Design for Social Innovation program at the School of Visual Arts and is frequently a guest editor for the US Journal of Education for Sustainability. In 2015, Jamie was nominated for the Brock International Prize in Education. Jamie also owns Miracle Springs Farm in the Hudson Valley, where her team is making goat cheese and cultivating regenerative farming practices. She was recently elected to the Town of Gallatin's Advisory Board for Conservation and the Environment. I now welcome Jamie Cloud to the 2020 Sustainability Symposium.
Hi everybody, welcome to the 2020 Sustainability Symposium. I'm Jamie Cloud, and I run the Cloud Institute for Sustainability Education. I would much have preferred to come and be with you in person, but this is what we're going to do today, and you have to be a flexible species in a flexible environment if you want to be sustainable. So maybe it's a blessing in disguise. We shall see. I'm hoping that we all use this moment as an opportunity to reflect and to make the mid-course correction we need to make. The entire world is at home organizing towards the same goal, and that is pretty extraordinary. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen. This is the quote that we always use to introduce our work, because we want to inspire young people to think about the world, their relationship to it, and their ability to influence it in an entirely new way. This is the question that we always ask. This is what we start every conversation with. What's the goal? What's the kind of future we want? What's the potential? Where are we headed? So all education for sustainability begins with that goal in mind, with the desired future in mind. In the same way that backwards design or understanding by design curriculum works that way. What do we want to sustain? For whom? For how long? And of course, for all of our purposes, what does teaching and learning have to do with it? And of course, that begs the question, what is education for? in the service of what exactly are we teaching and learning? And this is an age-old question. What should education be for? Is it for excellence, equity? There's so many different opinions about that. At the end of the day, we think if we're not educating for the future we want, and that includes a healthy and sustainable one, then we're not unleashing our potential. So that would be our answer to the question. What do we mean by sustainability? There are lots of different ways of trying to describe what we mean, but these are my favorites. And I think a shared understanding of vocabulary is key, especially at the beginning of a conversation like this. So here we go. I like this one, John Ehrenfeld's. It's the possibility that human and other life will flourish on Earth forever. Emphasis on possibility. We actually don't have a guaranteed seat on Spaceship Earth. I think many people miss that memo, and we need to make sure that people understand, especially our young people, you have to work hard to sustain anything on this planet. And we need to create favorable conditions for our ability to thrive over time. Here's another definition which I like. A sustainable society is far-seeing enough, flexible enough, and wise enough not to undermine either its physical or social systems of support. Common sense. Do not shoot yourself and your neighbors in the foot. Some people would ask, well, are we? Why is she saying that? Why is she putting it that way? This is a great model that I think describes how we see the world as systems thinkers and educators for sustainability. We see the economy as in the center of the model, not because it's the most important place, but because it's the system most dependent on the other systems. And our economy is nested inside the social and human capital that financial capital depends on. Think about the education systems, the legal systems, transportation systems, creativity, innovation, everything that business depends on. And both of those systems are nested inside and completely and utterly dependent on the natural capital upon which all life and all production depends. And at the end of the day, it's all powered by the sun anyway. And so this is how we see the world. So we don't want any of these systems undermining the other system's ability to support them, particularly the economic and social systems. The planet will be just fine without us, but not so much the other way around. And we need to figure out what our contribution is to the health and well-being of our places. And that's one of the things we talk a lot about in Education for Sustainability. Here's another one. It's just the capability to thrive over time. I think that's what I think of it as, and that is something that we think schools can do. And it's actually our unique contribution to the society. We wouldn't need education for sustainability if there was no such thing as unsustainable. Clearly, it's possible for our social and economic systems to undermine the very physical systems upon which our lives depend. And it's unsustainable. And it's also possible for our economic systems to undermine our social systems and vice versa. So it's possible to shoot ourselves in the foot, and we need to be aware of that and intentionally educate so that we don't end up in that situation. We like to say all systems are perfectly designed to get the results they get. So if we're in this current reality of unsustainability, then we designed for it, we bought and sold for it, we farmed for it, we educated for it unintentionally. We didn't mean to do it, but it's been going on a really long time, and we need to make that mid-course correction. It's also worth noting that it's not the work of ignorant people. It's the work of extremely well-educated people, many of whom have advanced degrees. So we would argue that if it isn't a lack of education, it's the education itself, and that's an opportunity for us. Einstein said a lot of very smart things. One of them we love is that the significant problems we face can't be solved with the same thinking we used to create them in the first place. So it will require a different way of thinking to get to a different result, and that is what education for sustainability is designed to do. This is a wonderful document. I'm going to include this PowerPoint in the video so you all can get a copy of it and click on all of these links. This is a wonderful document, relatively new, called the EFS Benchmarks, and it is a consensus document of 42 authors from around the world who came together to define the field for ourselves. We've all been working on this for about 30 years, and we wanted to make sure that if countries and states and counties and districts and municipalities and provinces and people all over the world are going to educate for sustainability, that we have a shared understanding of what is included, what is it that characterizes it. And so this is a wonderful document that I would recommend you take a look at if you're interested in this work. Much of the policies and practices work that I'm going to share with you comes from this, this document. These are the categories of the EFS policies and practices that come out of the benchmarks document. I'm just going to highlight a couple of them. We have these 4, and then another 4 here. And then I'll just again highlight just a few that I think are a little bit different. Again, you can use it as a strengths assessment, or you can use it as a set of aspirations to plan from. So leadership. It doesn't mean you know what you're doing in this world. Right now, leadership means that you have stepped out in front and you have figured out who to bring with you, and you started to ask some questions, and you know you don't know what you don't know, and you're willing to take the risk of going where no one has gone before. If that's not what you're doing, then it's not leadership. So we like to remind people that it doesn't mean you have to know everything. Schooling has not prepared us well for this kind of leadership, I have to say. We are taught that we're supposed to have the right answer. And we can't have the right answer if we're trying to create a new world and a healthy and sustainable one. So, so if you're the sort of person that is willing to learn how to take a leadership role in this area, this is your century. This is a wonderful model by Leith Sharp, a colleague of mine up at Harvard, who's also Australian actually. And she talks about the 2 operating systems that operate at every organizational level. The one on the right is the command and control operating system. The one on the left is the adaptive one. And she says we need both for a healthy organization that in the context of interdependence in an ever-changing world. Command and control is good for some things, and a more creative, adaptive, living system is more useful for innovation and adapting and making change. This is wonderful work, and for those who like to be in control, I like to always tease you to remind us all that there's really no such thing as control in a complex system. The more you try to control it, the crazier it gets. So you're not really giving anything up because you don't really have it in the first place. That goes over well with some people and not well with other people. So unfortunately, I'm not there to read the feedback and self-correct. Here's another piece that we talked about, and again, I've just pulled out some highlights. Policy alignment. We think it's really important, and it's actually a standard in education for sustainability, to be really thoughtful about what should be preserved and what should be changed in order for students and the larger school community to thrive over time. We seem to be really good at changing what should have been preserved and preserving what should have been changed. But if we could just get that right and do that on an ongoing basis, continually ask, what do we keep, what do we change? We think that schools would be better able to thrive over time and prepare our students to do the same. We also want to make sure that people learn how to set priorities that don't compete with one another, but instead are mutually beneficial. Our priorities should not be a list, but in fact are a system of interdependent parts. And the more mutually beneficial we can make them, the more problems we can solve at the same time and minimize the creation of new problems, that's a sustainable solution. Human resources, there's quite a bit to say about that. In most of the schools that I'm working with, and we used to have this in the 80s, but I have not seen mentorships, apprenticeships, sometimes peer-to-peer coaching, and certainly professional development and coaching. But I haven't seen as much of it as I wish, and I know it's probably a budgetary concern, but maybe there's a creative way that we can help our new hires, mostly so that if we're trying to make change and create new cultural norms and traditions and new instructional practices, we can transmit them from generation to generation. The lifespan of innovation in schools right now is 7 years before the school looks exactly like it always did. And one of the reasons is that we have not found elegant ways to continue to transmit the new ways of doing things so that they stick, so that they last. And so that's certainly a tenet of sustainability education and the organizational policies and practices required. Performances, assessments, and incentives. Obviously, they should be aligned with strategic goals and the priorities, especially to educate for sustainability, if that's what you want to do. I see that the performance assessments that I've looked at in the schools that I'm working with often do not align with the new directions that the school or the district want to go in. The performance assessments have been around a long time and they don't evolve with the direction of the school. So that alignment is critical. And of course, just like with our students, assessments should produce learning, not just measure it. And so that's another thing to consider. I am always shocked at, in many, many places that I go, there is no documented and mapped curriculum. And even in the new schools that I work with, they don't think about curriculum until the summer before the kids arrive. It's shocking to me. Curriculum is the heart of what kids are going to learn, what they're going to be able to do. And we have to find a way to continue to evolve curriculum and make it a living document. So by curriculum, I mean the what and the why, the continuity that we want for all kids. And it's our way of being able to count on one another so that whatever teachers the kids get, we know that what they've learned and what they're able to do. We can document and map the curriculum. There's great software out there these days. I've been asked to audit curriculum to see to what extent people are educating for sustainability. And I ask to see the curriculum and I can't because it's not written down anywhere. Teachers have their own lesson plans, but nowhere can I see an actual curriculum. And what I mean by that is the operating curriculum, the unit plans, the outcomes, the assessments, everything in one place. If we map that vertically and laterally, we can get a rich sense of where the vertical and horizontal articulation, and we can make choices and analyze that and continually improve it. It should be a living document. The binder days are over. There are designers, adapters, and implementers in every building. Not everyone is a curriculum designer. And these days, faculty is being asked to both build the curriculum while they're teaching it, and many of them are just not equipped to do so. So they take a formal curriculum or the standards way up at the top, and then they're trying to sketch lesson plans against them. And there's a whole lot in between that needs to be built and continually evolved so that teachers can then sketch lessons and see what others are doing and so forth. Instruction, of course, is the how we deliver on the curriculum, and it's where the creativity and the autonomy is. Not that there can't be creativity in the curriculum, but the role of instruction is creativity and autonomy. And so I think if everyone's really clear that it's a living curriculum, we can stay up to date and make sure our kids are learning what they need to be learning and getting what they need to get. School culture, in the schools that learn, everyone's encouraged to keep thinking, innovating, collaborating, talking candidly, improving their capabilities, self-correcting, and making personal commitments to a shared future. Two theories of change come to mind that we use all the time. One is the U theory by Otto Scharmer, and it looks very much like the learning curve. It begins with tapping prior knowledge, and this now is at the organizational level. So at the organizational level, you're tapping your current reality, your current knowledge, what do we do well, and so forth. What do we know? We learn something new. We start learning something new, like what the heck is education for sustainability? That begins to change the way we think, and we reappraise and reframe, and there's a moment of paradigm shifting where the old way and the new way come up against one another. The brain scientists call it impasse. And if we want to be lifelong learners and continue to learn and grow, we need to move from impasse to insight. We reflect, we gain that insight, we accommodate, as Piaget used to say. We don't assimilate anymore, but we accommodate that new information. We immediately apply it, because if we don't immediately apply it, those old ways will phase back in. And then we apply that new learning to make it stick. We read the feedback, we reflect on it, we revise, we continually improve, and then we go back around the U. So that's one way of thinking about the kind of organizational change, what it looks like to evolve this kind of work over time. Who is doing that work? We like to use the innovation diffusion theory or the innovation adoption curve. We at the Cloud Institute are innovators in the field of education for sustainability. We look for the early adopters in any school or district or region. We're looking for the people that want the innovation, that know they want it, that don't require any convincing. Their job is to cross that chasm between the early adopters and the early majority. And to do that, they just need to try it, make the feedback visible, desirable, and doable for the early majority. They're not against it, but they're not going to be the first on their block to try it. Once that happens, the late majority comes along because now everyone's doing it. And then the laggards, there's a wonderful permaculture principle that says a problem is a solution in the wrong place. And you can take that one any way you want. This is our framework. We like to start at the center with the learner, and we are all learners. Our students, of course, are learners. Their families are learning. The learners are nested inside classrooms of adults and young people learning together. They're nested inside a school that learns at the organizational level with the administrators and the big picture planning. That's the organization is nested inside physical plants with procurement and energy and transportation and food and materials, building materials, investments in some cases, and the school then, the physical schools and playgrounds and schoolyards are nested inside the communities. So from our point of view, schools and communities learning and working together for the future we want is the unit of study that is the most important. This is our set of standards and performance indicators. So our contribution to those benchmarks was this set of content and indicators. It also includes some enduring understandings or big ideas that come up again and again in education for sustainability. We bake this work right into the core curriculum. There is no such thing as an add-on because there will never be more time. So in the same way that when we learn new vocabulary, our sentences don't just keep getting longer and longer. We don't talk more. We actually talk less and more efficiently and precisely because we have exactly the right language to use. And so that is how we want education for sustainability to be understood. It's a reorientation of what we're teaching so that we can get to the future we want. I've included some wonderful resources for you. I have a chapter here in Schools That Learn by Peter Senge. Some of you may have read this one. This is the new one, the updated and revised version. That's the one my chapter is in, so you must read that, of course. Here's another one by a colleague of mine, Lisa Kensler and Cynthia Uline, Leadership for Green Schools. It's the only one that I know of that's specifically designed for school administrators, and specifically for those administrators who want to evolve their school systems as green schools or schools that educate for sustainability. And here's another wonderful new book, Bold Moves, which is very, very good at helping give a lot of different ideas about how we can organize the school day and how we can actually create learning organizations that learn and evolve and have that combination of the command and control as well as the adaptive operating systems that Leith was talking about. This is the Cloud Institute. One day I'll get to come and work with you, I'm sure, hopefully next year. Someday I'll be able to come on a solar plane so that it won't contribute CO2. That'll be great. Get your kids on that for me. That will be great. I would love to visit you. I've never been to Australia. And if you would like to contact me, you can get to me through our website. I thank you so much for your time. And again, I look forward to working with you. And in the meantime, we can work online. There's a lot of work we can do in conversations and sharing materials with one another. So have a wonderful rest of the symposium, and happy education for a sustainable future. Bye-bye for now.